Welcome to another episode of the Architects of Destiny podcast, whatever you'd like to call it, but we're here for another episode, and this episode is going to be super exciting because it's myself and Riya, and we're going to be talking about energetic predictions for 2022.
Correct. So rather than having a guest, we together are going to be discussing what's in store for the new year, and most importantly, how you can prepare for it. And just to give you a little bit of background, you may know us just as host of the Architects of Destiny podcast, but Aeron is actually a multidimensional psychic, which means that when he takes his glasses off, in his third eye, he can actually see quite clearly what's ahead. And these forecasts have really helped us navigate our life since we started trusting this. So we have been hit by the global events and COVID, just like everybody else. In fact, at the very beginning of COVID, we lost our previous business, which went for the good because here we are stepping into our multidimensionality and actually serving you guys the way we meant to serve with our spiritual abilities. However, since then, everything kind of went really right for us. Even though there's been restrictions, even though there's been lockdowns, somehow because we
navigated it,
yes.
Didn't we? And the reason we were able to navigate this is being tuned into our intuition and being tuned into the quantum field and actually channeling in energy and information, which allowed us then to make decisions based upon this and avoid these things like lockdown. So I remember during what was it, 2020,
yeah.
I believe, we traveled across Australia 35,000 kilometers in a Nissan Patrol with a rooftop tent, and I traveled more across Australia even with intrastate borders and lockdowns and restrictions and things than I did when I backpacked in 2005 as a young man when I was backpacking. So when you start to follow your intuition, you can easily navigate life and, hurdles and restrictions that are thrown in your path. So it's really served us, hasn't it? And, since then we've trusted our intuition and we've ended up coming to Costa Rica. And
yes,
it's been great.
Which was another divine intervention. However, one thing to bear in mind with those decisions is that at the time they make no sense. So throwing back to 2020 when we are in Australia and one day we feel we need to pack and go. And at that time we are renting a flat on a farm in South Australia, and our hosts are like, these guys have lost their minds. Like they just kind of like buggering off all of a sudden on a short notice, and they'll be back, but they planned the trip in a month ahead and now they're going. Well, the same day a lockdown's been announced and we just made it across the border to New South Wales, and then in the same way we came back to the farm because we felt like our time away from home was over and we were meant to head back even though our plans were different. So here we are, we're rocking back to the farm, and then a day after the other side announces restrictions where you can't come from New South Wales back into South Australia. And our last couple of years are full of stories like that, where literally we are being guided to go to certain places at a certain time, and it's very specific and it doesn't make sense at the time. So here we are now in Costa Rica, even though our dream has always been to live in Australia, but we've had divine guidance to move here. So with all of that being said, I'm encouraging you to open up your own intuition too. If something feels right in your heart, it's really good to follow. Your heart and your intuition never leads you astray, even though at the time it may seem really wacky to the outside world and people might be thinking, oh my goodness me, why are you doing it? Because, it's a little bit like with Noah's Ark. When Noah was building the ark, it made no sense because it was still dry. It was only when the rain started falling then the ark made sense. And it is a little bit like that with any predictions, with trusting your intuition, because we can't see it in the physicality. However, for us, the energetic world is just as real as the physical world.
Thank you. Yes, it is. And the beauty of being tapped into the quantum field with consciousness is that you're able to predict certain things. And if you're able to predict accurately, you're able to navigate. And that's what we're here today to share with you, is our or my energetic predictions for 2022. And I accurately predicted 12 months ago what was going to pan out across what we've seen in 2021. So I thought my guides had pressed onto me for a while now to put this together and put these predictions together for people for 2022 in order that people are able to effectively navigate what's going to come in 2022. And, I'm a firm believer in not watering down the message, not watering down the information. So, as I've put on social media and stuff, if you want the rainbows, the unicorns and the flowers, etc., nothing wrong with that. I love them myself. But if you want the rainbows and the unicorns, etc., this possibly isn't the message. But what you will get here is an honest message from the quantum. And it'll be raw and filtered and will allow you to see what's coming and so you can navigate. And there's nothing, like I say, there's nothing to worry about. It's going to be okay, but we need to kind of know what's coming up.
So yeah, the 2022 is definitely not going to be rainbows and unicorns, and we're going to dig into details of this. But before we do, I would like you to explain a little bit how you're getting this information, because soon in one of the following episodes of Architects of Destiny podcast, we're going to have an astrologer. So she is looking at the constellations and stars and conjunctions of planets, etc. You are not an astrologer.
No.
So how do you
it?
know?
How do you do it? So it's super interesting that we've got on Earth spiritual people who practice with different modalities, and they've got different techniques, etc. But we're kind of all reading the same thing. It's like when you notice people who are channels for extraterrestrial beings.
Just like you.
Just like me, I'm a channel. But you've got people who channel different races, and you'll notice, their consciousness unpacks the information in their own way, and they'll make their own analogies and tell their own story. But you can see the similarities across all of the channels' messages that they put out there at certain times. So we're all channeling the same information, right? So it'll be really interesting for me anyway. I would like to hear what the astrologer, I'm really looking forward to having her on as a guest. It's going to be fantastic. But how do I do it? So it's my consciousness is permanently plugged into the quantum field, which is the infinite field of information. It's got all the answers within there. It's the equivalent of having a Google or an Alexa in my consciousness. And it's just a case of having this search engine and being able to ask a question with my consciousness and open up and to read the response that comes in. I'm able to read energy from the quantum field and interpret this into images and pictures and put this into information and create accurate predictions. So it's a blessing and a gift.
So with that being said, what do you see for 2022? And also, if you can let us know, certain things seem like they will definitely come to pass. Certain other things look a bit, let's say, unsettled. They're still brewing. So if you can let us know about both of what is like looking very, very likely and what is looking less likely. Bear in mind, we're creating this reality collectively. And if you are, if you've listened to some episodes of the Architects of Destiny, you know that we actually, with every action, individually and collectively, we're creating this reality. So we've got it in us to change certain things. However, certain things seem to be very, very likely that there is nothing to do but to just sit back and watch it pass. So what's in store for 2022?
Good question. So what's in store for 2022? As Riya has just rightly said, there's There's different timelines, different spinning plates which are going on. There's certain things which are going to come to pass, and then there's certain things in 2022 where reading into this energetically, it's like reading a muddy puddle. There's probably 6 or 7 different outcomes based upon 10 different spinning variables which are going on at the moment. One of the things which is very, very difficult to read at the moment, okay, is whether the economic collapse is going to come in 2022 or whether it's going to be beyond 2022. You can look into this and you'll see online, you can find this is widely available on the internet, about Evergrande in China. And Evergrande has officially defaulted now, and hundreds of billions in liabilities. And that's really going to impact the Chinese economy, and it's going to have a ripple effect financially around the world on the markets and everything else, which at some point is going to cause the house of cards to come down. And there's going to be a transition to a new financial system. And whether this happens in 2022 or not is really difficult to read energetically. Like I say, there's about 10 different spinning plates there. But at some point, the fiat system that we've got, okay, which is based upon a fractional reserve banking system, don't need to go into it, but it's the system of fiat currency and debt that we've got around the world now, okay, that's going to be going away, and it'll be replaced with a new system. Whether that comes in 2022 or not is difficult to read energetically, but it's coming, it's brewing, and it's on the horizon. So that's one of the things which is variable.
Before we go to the next thing, can I ask a question about this new financial system? Do you see it in your consciousness as something centralized or decentralized? Is it going to be digital currencies of particular countries, or is it going to be more cryptocurrencies? Is it going to be more freedom or less freedom, or is it still playing out?
Okay, so eventually it's going to be freedom and it's going to be decentralized, and you've got this thing called the QFS, the quantum financial system, which will be brought in, and it's going to be wonderful and marvelous. But you've got the ones who control the system currently are looking for more centralized power. So in the first instance, they'll be trying to bring in the CBDCs, and CBDCs are central bank digital currencies. This will be your digital dollar or digital pound or digital euro or yen or peso or whatever it is, controlled by the central bank. Now, this currency is going to be electronic, it's going to be programmable. They will be able to set expiry dates on this currency, so it'll last for 30 days before you get your next installment. So saving is impossible. You're not going to be able to save this stuff. And they'll also be able to program exactly what you can spend it on. So it'll be valid for certain transactions and not for others. And it'll also, every transaction is monitored and tracked, and therefore and taxed as well. So this is what it's about. It's about centralization and control. So this is what they're aiming for, but that's not what's going to come to pass in the sort of medium term. The quantum financial system, we would agree that the financial system on Earth currently is broken. It needs fixing, it needs changing, but it will evolve into this decentralized version, which will involve cryptocurrency. It will involve decentralization of finance. So there won't be the banking cartels and all this kind of stuff, and there won't be a debt-based society where people are kind of trapped and enslaved by debt either. So it starts off that they're pushing for the centralization, but it's going to transition. It will become decentralized and free.
Okay, so what are the other things that are definitely coming to pass, and what are the other things that are still brewing?
Okay, so the things which are definitely going to come to pass, okay? As we look forward in 2022, and I'll get into specifics now. So this, I'm so happy you're joining us on this episode. This will be a really important episode for you, okay? So you've got to understand that we're going through this transition period now, and what we are going through, okay, is going to start to fall away around June or July is what I've been given, 2024, okay? But until there, it's going to be rocky. Now, we are currently on a decline, okay? And 2022 is, let's call this the dark night of the soul for humanity, because it's going to be worse than it was this year. But it's going to be the darkest that it gets. So we reach the bottom, okay, the worst it's going to be, which is, I've read, it's around end of August, September, and into the middle of October next year is when it gets, that's the worst, that's the bottom. That's when we're in the gutter and as low as we can possibly get. Everything from that point upwards is improving. So everything after that just gets better and better, to the point we get to mid 2024, everything falls away. So what's happening next year, right? So let's get into it and give you some specifics on what I've read. So governments globally, okay, are going to begin to mandate Vs. So I'm not going to say the word just in case it gets taken down, etc. But you know what I'm talking about. Governments globally are going to begin to mandate the V and introduce the V passports. Okay, this is going to happen. It's going to happen at different stages, but you're going to see this around the world consistently, where they're going to be bringing this in.
It's already started, but is it going to be intensified?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, for sure. Like I think March, around springtime, is when the mandates and stuff are going to start to come into effect, and that's when you're really going to see this where you live in it. But it's not going to happen all at once. It never does. You're going to see different countries adopting, etc., and governments sniffing the wind and seeing how it's going in other countries, and they'll start to kind of bring it in. You're going to see the emergence of two-tier societies. So there will be segregation. There will be people who are excluded from participating in society because they don't have the right papers. Having the right papers is going to be an important part of navigating this reality. So you're going to need paperwork in order to navigate this. I think we're all aware of this. Okay. At some point next year, you're going to see the emergence of a blockchain-based global VPass, okay, which is going to be linked to an electronic ID. Your driving license is going to be on there. There's going to be medical records on there. They're going to try and incorporate banking onto this digital ID. So your bank will then be on this digital ID, probably saved on a smartphone. But what they'll do is try and introduce this banking element, okay, and they'll try and introduce this and sell it to you through perceived convenience, because it'll just be easy for you to transact that way. But again, they're going to need backing of popular opinion to actually bring this on fully.
So if I can just say something about convenience. Convenience in general is very good for marketing. And my background is in marketing, so convenience. If you can sell something is more convenient, it always convinces people. And with this comes, it's like a double-edged sword. So this is just one example, but recently I've got a download of information from the Mintaka race, from the Orions, who were talking about the great danger for humanity. And I'm thinking, is it about, the medical experiment, or is it about, vaccination rollout? Not of that. It was about how technology has already programmed us, how we are reacting to algorithms, whether we're creating content online, or even talk about creating content. How stupid is that? Creating content. Should we just be expressing ourselves?
Exactly.
Or whether we're consuming the same. All these red dots, they have already got to a stage where it's not just affecting our psychology, because that's been long proven by scientists, how these notifications and likes give us a dopamine hit, but it actually starts affecting our physiology and our physicality in a way where our wrists are starting to hurt. Our whole body is wired where we constantly need this kind of like connection, whereas in fact it's not connection, it's disconnection. So I know that this is quite serious about convenience and banking and all hard stuff, but I encourage you to have a greater look at your life. And especially now with the emergence of metaverse, where they would love to move us all online, and it would be so easy to control your life. Get out into the nature. Spend some time with your loved one without a phone, without a screen. There is so much beauty in this planet, and I'm passing this message on because there is a lot of gloom for the next year. But
it gets better though.
Yeah.
It does. Honestly, I've seen this, I've seen it coming, it's going to get better.
But at the same time, there's one thing on this planet that doesn't change. And I remember when they were first announcing lockdowns and I was walking in nature, I was looking at like water birds, and I'm like, these guys have no idea about lockdowns. They're just doing the same thing every day. So if it ever gets to a point where you are perhaps panicking, you see things that are troubling you, and we'll talk about more of it, one of the remedies you can do to raise your own vibration is to tune in back towards natural, because there's a lot of stuff going on which is not natural in this world. So a great lesson is to get out with plants, animals, if you can, because obviously that sometimes isn't so obvious, in which case you need to go with it, but we talk about it later.
Yeah.
What's more in store for 2022?
Okay, so great point by Riya there, and it's this is about sort of, you know, she was mentioning there about going into nature, managing your stress levels, etc. Because, you know, hopefully by us sort of describing here what's going to play out in 2022, when it comes along, it's not going to be so much of a shock. You can go, okay, I was kind of expecting that. And if we can expect it and we can prepare from it, we can navigate around it. And your life can be a lot easier than just being confronted with this stuff and going, oh my goodness me, what's going on, okay? So this is brought to you with the intention of making your life more positive and more bearable as we transition through this. But, you know, the reason I mentioned 2024 is hope is one of the strongest frequencies, okay, up there with love and joy, etc. But hope is stronger than fear. And let me tell you, never lose hope, because you know, brighter days are coming, and I've foreseen what's coming in the future, okay, and you've just got to hold on until then. It's a transition period, okay. So what else is going to kick on in 2022? You're going to see inflation is going to be a big thing in 2022, okay? So there's been the endless printing of this monopoly money around the world. They call it quantitative easing, which is just a fancy way of digitally creating more money out of thin air. It's like confetti. They're artificially propping up the stock markets at the moment, buying government bonds and all this kind of stuff, and it makes everybody feel a bit wealthier and feel nice. You know, you've got property bubbles which are emerging across the world now. You look at Australia, it's going crazy. Property prices are going crazy. In the States, property prices have gone crazy. In the UK, they've gone up. And, you know, part of this is to do with inflation. They don't talk about this. It's kind of hidden and massaged with these statistics to make it look like inflation isn't as severe as it is, but it's a big thing.
Well, have a look at your grocery shopping.
Have a look at the grocery shoppings. Another thing, if you want to see the future, you want to predict the future, look at the price of crude oil per barrel. You want to see how the economy, etc., is doing, look at the price of crude oil. And you're going to see a massive spike in inflation in 2022. So how's this going to hit you? So you're going to see your living standards squeezed, okay? So grocery prices are going to go up. There's going to be high rises in gas, petrol, diesel prices, utility prices, so your electricity, your domestic gas, water rates, etc. You're going to see big price rises around this, and obviously the buying power of your income is going to get squeezed because of inflation, and you know, it's going to be a thing. There's going to be shortages on certain food items, okay, not all items, so it's not like you're going to go to the grocery store, it's going to be completely bare and oh my goodness me, but maybe plant a vegetable garden. Ria's spoken about nature, you know, it's like it doesn't. I saw a wonderful story, because this is about telling you about what's coming up, but giving you solutions and giving you a road out of this.
Veggies really don't take long to grow. We've grown a vegetable garden in Australia. Here in Costa Rica we don't need to, because we've got decentralized food supply. But honestly, it's simple.
Tell them about the garden in Melbourne.
This episode is brought to you by the Quantum Club. The Quantum Club is a membership program designed to help you develop your spiritual abilities, such as connecting to your galactic soul family as guides, speaking light languages, channeling, transmitting and receiving light technology. Every week we hold live sessions and work with you energetically on a deep level to unlock your divine intuitive gifts, to connect deeper than ever before with your higher self and galactic light beings. To find out more, head to bit.ly/Galactic Club. That's bit.ly/Galactic Club. See you there.
lady who planted a garden in Melbourne on like a suburban block, and literally she's got enough not just to feed her family, but also feed like half a neighborhood. And of course you can't on a whim become self-sufficient, but you know, even things like especially fruit and veg, because funny enough, somehow when the panic strikes, everybody is actually buying not the healthy stuff. They will buy bread and milk and processed stuff, but what you actually need for sustenance is probably a lot of fresh produce. So by all means that can help, and I think some of you have already started this, but you know, even like if you live in a flat, even something as simple as having some herbs and some connection with nature. I didn't plan this, but it's kind of being pressed onto me again from the quantum as we're recording it, that connection with nature and with this Mother Earth who's going through this whole process with us. You know, we co-creating it. That's gonna be absolutely key. So if there's one thing to take away from that, is never lose that connection. This planet has everything we need to feel abundant, to feel fulfilled, to feel wholesome and healthy. It's just being sold to us as if we need everything else. You know, we need social media, and we need this kind of branded clothes and this car and something else and a boat. Well, in fact, probably we need very little. It's been pressed onto me that we need to redefine abundance, because the abundance is already there. You just need to open yourself up. And if you're in a city, try to get out to the nature when you can, even if it's just outside the city, and maybe incorporate some nature into your thing. So yeah, that's my Mother Nature input.
Yeah, so you know, even in cities, there's going to be parks. And you know, even in London, central London, you'll be amazed how much of central London is actually parkland, and it's about 35% I think of central London is parkland. So you can find nature no matter where you are, and if you are growing some stuff, start small. Plant a tomato plant, just take the seeds, start growing some tomatoes, start growing some herbs.
Potatoes, you can't go wrong.
Potatoes are so easy. And do you understand or realize the satisfaction of actually putting stuff in the ground, watering it, nurturing it, and actually eating the produce? It's actually growing for nothing. It grows for free, right? And we just need to learn how to kind of cultivate it, and then just start to learn to cook with this stuff. So, you know, start a garden. So don't worry about the shortages and all the rest of it, which there will be, but...
Yeah, another thing is you won't be able to provide everything yourself. So with the emergence of these two-tier societies, where there's more division, even more division coming in, which is really not what we're heading towards, because we're heading towards unity consciousness. But with this more division, try to find your local community support. You know, you'll be surprised how many people there are who support the new Earth. And we can call it new Earth, you can call it new humanity, you can call it
consciousness 2.0 or whatever you want to call it. You know, that's the thing. It's just this new way of living, isn't it?
There is a lot of people who have had enough of control, of power, of regulation, and they will be happy to support you. So perhaps, you know, you grow in veg, but someone else is great at something else. So that's one of the things. And I'm looking at your notes. We're gonna and you say here,
we're going to move on. Hang on, no.
Yeah.
Just okay. So we'll move on, because I've got some more stuff here. Okay. So what I can also read in 2022, okay, is at some point towards the back end, there's going to be an emergence of a new virus. Okay, not just a variant of COVID-19. It's difficult to read whether this is going to be more of a COVID 2022 or COVID-22, or perhaps some kind of emergence of a new virus. Okay, but the reason this is going to be released, they're going to need to justify restrictions and lockdowns. Okay. And lockdowns and restrictions being brought in off the back of variants of COVID-19, okay? It's a bit 2019, and it's like people are getting a bit wise to this and a bit tired of it. And so in order to justify this, there needs to be new fear. So I can see a new virus emerging, whether that's COVID 2022 or whether it's a new virus. Again, don't worry, don't panic. It's not going to be... they wouldn't release or create anything which is going to negatively affect them or be dangerous for them, okay, the creators. So there's nothing to worry about. If your immune system is in good shape, you eat well and you get some sunshine, etc., you've got nothing to worry about. So it's not, oh my God, there's a virus. No, don't worry, but there will be an emergence of something new which justifies that. There's going to be counter economies that are going to emerge as those who are locked out of society are going to begin to find new ways. So there will be barter and cryptocurrency transactions will form a part of these, and you will see this more and more across next year, where those who are shut out from society begin to find new ways with other people who are shut out from those societies. And actually, people who are within the new system of the past and whatever else, who actually still want to trade with these people who perhaps aren't in there and perhaps are advocates for freedom themselves. So you will see sort of a counter economy, barter, cryptocurrency, and people will begin to find new ways. You are going to see in 2022 mass demonstrations and countries, different countries around the world, beginning to utilize their militaries in order to maintain order around the world. And you're going to see that. So you will see martial law. And it's going to come in off the back of violence erupting, violent protests and backlash basically around what's going on, people at their wits' end, etc. And then governments are going to try and control that. So you're going to see increased use of militaries to maintain order. There's going to be quarantine or re-education camps. Don't forget, this is, like I said to you, 2022 is dark night of the soul, but it doesn't get any worse than it's going to get next year, and then it gets better and quick. Okay, so never lose hope. But what I'm telling you here is going to allow you to navigate what's going on. Okay, that's the intention behind it. It's not to scare you. You've got nothing to fear, nothing to worry about. It's actually to empower you and to, you've got something to hold on to, and it's going to help you navigate, which is a great thing, right? Because we all get out of this the other side, it's all going to be fine. And in 10 years time from now, we'll look back at this period, and what we have then, this new earth that's going to be birthed, we're going to be so happy and overjoyed with how we're living at that point. We look back and I'll ask you all and I'll say, do you know what? Do you remember 2020, 21 and 22? Do you regret any of that? Because it means we've now got this, and you'll just be silent. You won't say anything because everyone's going to be happy at that point. It's going to be fine, promise you, okay?
They always say it's the darkest before the dawn.
Yeah, totally. So it's really going to be okay. But next year, okay, you're going to see the introduction of these quarantine re-education camps, okay, that are going to be used for the unvaccinated or the people who haven't had the injections, and for those vaccinated people who are then classed as unvaccinated and haven't agreed to take their boosters. The boosters are going to be pushed now. And, what's going to happen is you'll have these people who've had so many but go, whoa, I'm not having any more. But then they're then classed as unvaccinated, and there's going to be people who are sent to these education camps, concentration camps, whatever you want to call them. But yeah, these camps, okay, and the military is going to be involved in that.
Can I just ask, because I can see that obviously it depends on where in the world you are. It's not going to be everywhere. So where do you see those re-education camps? Will it also be where people are sent because they tested positive?
So what you will see is you will see outbreaks of variants, okay, and then you'll see authorities clamping down for the greater good and for everybody's health and safety. They're keeping everybody nice and safe and strong. And you'll see, as in response to this, it'll be used as a response to drive more injections into people. So not to the point. So don't think these camps are going to be where people are going to be locked up and pinned to a table and forcibly injected. That's not going to be the case. They still need your free will. You still need to consent. That's why it's basically to create enough pain and enough inconvenience in your life that you come to the right decision, inverted commas, but you need to give your consent yourself. They can't take that from you, okay?
So my question was also, okay, so if you are... So
it's more like quarantine for sort of periods of time, whether it's 2 to 3 weeks, then you'll be released and, in response to this thing which is going down, but there will be a thing.
Okay, so obviously life is getting tougher in 2022 for those who didn't have the injections. Is it going to get any easier for those who did?
No, that's the thing. So this is what I said to you. It kind of leads on with what I was saying before. If, as long as you keep your boosters up to date and you keep in line with what they're trying to push out, then you will have relative freedoms. Although when it comes to things like air travel and things like this, that's going to become, there's still going to be negative testing. So yes, as long as people get the boosters and keep themselves up to date, then they'll be able to maintain their freedom licenses or the movement licenses. But there still will be restrictions upon people because of new variants that are emerging, especially with travel and things like this. So just because people have complied doesn't necessarily mean that people have no restrictions or problems within their lives, so.
Okay, so what else do you see and how is it coming to an end? Because you mentioned mass demonstration, you mentioned violence. Is this where it all kind of comes
Yeah,
down?
I'll come into this now. So we're just coming to the last few predictions and then how we're going to come out the other side of this. So your day-to-day living conditions, okay, are going to vary wildly, okay, in 2022, depending where in the world you live. It's as simple as that. So not all countries are going to be equal in freedom, for instance. So some countries will be more difficult to live in, others will be a bit more freer to live in, okay? It totally depends where you are in the world. The media, however, are going to double down on presenting you the illusion, okay, that the entire world is experiencing really, really harsh restrictions, but it's not going to be the case. It's like, take what the media presents to you about world affairs with a pinch of salt. You go and find your own information out, because they're going to be presenting this, doubling down, presenting this as if everybody's going through the same thing. But depending where you are in the world, depending where you live in the world, okay, your living conditions are going to vary wildly. There's going to be, like I say, there's going to be pockets of dystopia. There's going to be pockets of freedom, as there always is. There's never completely consistent around the world.
I suppose when you're in a place which is a bit more restricted, then the importance of connecting to your community and also this whole going inwards is even bigger. If you can navigate your way out and you feel this in your heart, your life probably will be easier. And also what I would encourage you to do is to connect with people from all over the world on a private basis. Drop people a message, ask actually what is life like, because there's a lot of, when you're just reading the news, you feel like, oh my God, there's restrictions everywhere. And it was for us, like, for example, when we were moving from Western Australia to Costa Rica, we were like, oh, it's going to be worse because, in Western Australia, you don't have to wear masks, and here there's restrictions, and in Western Australia, they haven't got any QR codes, and here they're introducing. But the truth of the matter is that in Costa Rica, nobody really actually. It's like the law exists on paper.
It's pretty free down here, and without getting political, I would invite everybody to come and check out Costa Rica. It's pretty amazing. I promise you.
Don't need a COVID test on entry.
No, you don't need much. That's all I'm going to say on that.
This episode has been sponsored
by Costa Rica.
By the Tourism Board of Costa Rica. No, it hasn't.
Pura vida. I promise you, it's okay. It's okay here. So everybody's welcome, by the way, come to Costa Rica. That's all I'm going to say to you. Okay. So the intensity in 2022, the intensity of the media is going to go through the roof. So my advice to you, okay, turn off mainstream media. Doesn't mean that you completely unplug from what's going on. And I know, it's a case of, yes, unplug, and it's like, this isn't in my reality, I'm manifesting a new timeline. Yes, do all of that good stuff, but at the same time, you can keep an eye on what's going on, but plug into it on your own terms. Go and watch. So rather than, I don't mean turn off the TV, let's say you're from the UK, but then I'm going to check the news and I'm going to log into BBC's website. Forget mainstream. Go and actually look at some of the stuff that's out there. There's, you're not going to find a lot of the stuff perhaps on some of the streaming websites that get censored, but there's other streaming websites that's out there. There's other alternative outlets of information. Go and find this stuff on your own terms.
Although, that being said, some of the alternative outlets also sometimes instill a lot of fear.
Yes, they do.
And this comes with a warning, because there are people out there who are activists, and thank God for these kind of people, because without them we wouldn't be aware. But there's a massive difference between raising awareness and being alarmist and raising fear. And yes, we have a lot of things to be alarmed about. Let's not just be kind of like, oh cool, oh yeah, our freedoms are being taken away, we need licenses to travel, there's medical procedures that are being ordained and it's all cool. Well, it isn't. However, I would say go on an information diet. Treat it on your own terms, because there's a lot of things you can do with your time, and there's a lot of different education that you can kind of get into. You, just like Aeron and just like me, you've got the biggest search engine in your pineal gland right there. And this actually is also a message for us, because there will be a lot of events, there will be a lot of restrictions where you're probably not going to be able to do what you normally do. So perhaps it will be more difficult for you to travel. Perhaps there will be more periods of time when it's difficult to interact like you do normally. So what you can do at this time is you can get prepared for the next stage. And there's a choice, and everybody's got a choice to make. You can spend your days being worried and reacting to, let's say, there's food shortages or some violence or something else, or you can spend this time on actually getting yourself ready for what's to come on the other end.
Do you know what that is? That's taking your power back. That's what that is. So that's stopping giving your power away to the third parties who are inciting fear and are making you afraid and perpetuating this sort of mass hypnosis where people are just afraid and don't know what's going on. That's giving your power away to somebody else. Actually working on yourself and seeing it as an opportunity, this is taking your power back. Okay, this is you coming back into sovereignty. I'm taking my power back, and I'm not plugging into this paradigm and this narrative which you're pumping down my throat, because I'm not subscribing to it. It's not my world, it's not my reality. So it's absolutely about you taking your power back and you not subscribing to the fear which is pumped out of there, and actually using this time effectively and using this time productively to work on yourself and get your consciousness to the best place it can possibly be when we actually transition out of this transition period and we transition into this new earth, isn't it?
Absolutely. So there will be people who will actually lead this transition in a violent way, but it doesn't have to be you, because there are people who are born to be activists. Their soul contract, there's even people who haven't even awakened to their multidimensionality, but they are becoming disillusioned, and these will be the ones who will probably lead some violent protest and push back. As a conscious person, as an awakened soul, you can do something else, because what's happening is always on two levels. There's things happening in the physical realm, and there's things happening on the metaphysical realm. And I encourage you to choose where you want to play. Because you, by all means, you can go and, with a petrol bomb by the Parliament House and start throwing it. And this is going to happen, by the way. There's going to be certain
elements of society that's going to break out. Obviously, would never recommend that. That's never a good outcome. But people are going to be pushed to the point they're so frustrated that this is going to come over, and you're going to witness and see this around the world. That's one of the reasons, by the way, that you'll see the increased use of military by governments around the world. So it's never a good way out of this, but this is something that we're going to witness. But from conscious and awakened people, okay, who are perhaps looking inwards and perhaps not subscribing to this and actually taking your power back, right? It's about, okay, how do I position myself? Okay, I'm working on me now, so how do I position myself for when we transition in 2024 into this new earth and into this new way of living? Because we're going to have to completely construct and rebuild society from that point. Now you don't have to be involved in that, by the way. It's going to take place, so you can be a bystander, but you've got an ideal opportunity to actually put your mark and put your stamp on this new earth that future generations are going to enjoy, And it's going to be such an amazing place by comparison of what we've lived through. So why wouldn't you want to contribute and be a part of that? And everybody's welcome in doing so. But in doing that, we need to make sure our consciousness is in the right place for this transition. This is stuff that we just don't get taught in high school. You know, the system that we've all transitioned from, we've all been through and been products of, it's not going to teach you knowledge. It's not going to empower you to set you free, to set your consciousness free. It's not in its interest to do that. But
it's also not in its interest for you to heal,
No.
which is another very important thing, and raise your vibration. So you have a choice. What you're doing with this time, which may feel a little bit like downtime. And it may feel a little bit like the reality is pressing in. And as I said before, if you can, connect with nature and also connect with your soul. Because, you know, there might be choices that you'll be faced with regarding your job situation, regarding what to do with your life. And again, if you tune inwards and use this time for healing, use this time for consciousness expansion, for connecting with your higher self, you may come up with brand new ideas for making income, for making contribution, for your soul mission. And this is why we have prepared a special offer for all of you listeners. Up until the end of this year, we've got a special discount on all our courses, which is 30% off. So if you want to stock up on some great education materials for the following year, we encourage you to check out the Architects of Destiny website. We're going to link it to the podcast episode, and we've got a special coupon code, which is...
The coupon code for 30% off all products and programs is Destiny. Destiny, that's lowercase D-E-S-T-I-N-Y, Destiny. And that's going to get you 30% off everything until the end of 2021 to mark the transition into 2022. And you know, there's some fantastic programs in there, some great testimonials and case history and great transformations that people have enjoyed and have benefited from these programs. So, you know, as an example, we've got there's what we call the Quantum Deep Dive, which is a 6-week immersive program. Teaches people A to Z, from elevating consciousness for the first time to connecting into energies, to channeling, to light language, about people's Akashic records. And it's just an overall great all-rounder program for people who are conscious practitioners and also for beginners as well. Also got the Akashic Records program.
Your baby.
Which is, the Akashic Realm is just amazing. I call it the Akashic Realm because there's just so much in it. It's amazing. And that's, again, is a 6-week program. And on that, I basically escort people's consciousness to the Akashic Realm. So some people, you may have heard of the Akashic Records and think, wow, okay. If you've got a soul, a consciousness, and a pineal gland, you absolutely have the ability to access your Akashic Records.
Why would you access the Akashic Records? Well, this is absolutely key for what's coming, because if you access your Akashic Records and also start working with some of the trauma, some of the karma, and having an insight into your soul, you can start releasing trigger points and start releasing certain programs that are like running in the background, keeping you in repeating the same patterns of fear or bad choices or scarcity or whatever it is. Because, you know, we think sometimes that events happen at random, but they don't. We've got tons of ancestral programming, conditioning, collective consciousness conditioning, and also past life baggage that we're not even aware of. And when we actually go into our Akashic records and we start reading our own energy field, we can actually start taking charge of our life back, because we're not then running on those subconscious programs and repeating the same lesson. Once we acknowledge what the actual lessons are, that can really change the trajectory of our life. So we don't have to be repeating the same karmic loops. Another course that we've got is My Baby, which is the light language course. And this is for everybody who wants to take part in collectively and individually raising their vibration. Light language is sound channeled in the, it's energy channeled in the form of sound. A lot of light languages come from different extraterrestrial benevolent races. Some of them come from Lemurians or Atlanteans. I speak over 15 different ones. And in the light language course, I teach you how to use this modality for yourself and for your clients. So if you're a healer, if you're a coach, this is a beautiful way of anchoring in new earth energy onto the collective. We also have other courses and programs. We encourage you to check them out on our website. Don't forget the coupon code is DESTINY for all the products and programs. We also have mini immersions and guided meditations, and they all have a flat rate of $22, and the coupon code for that is 2022, so 2022. So if you just want an immersive experience, beautiful meditations and activations to help you with shielding from negative energies, with manifesting, come check them out. We'll be really happy to help you. If you have any questions, whether it's regarding what we've got in store for 2022 or our programs, feel free to reach out together@thearchitectsofdestiny.com. That's together@thearchitectsofdestiny.com. We are very, very pleased that you stayed with us till the very end, and we thank you for being a supporter and for following the Architects of Destiny podcast. We wish you the most beautiful, fruitful 2022 so you can navigate it and actually thrive even in the most challenging circumstances.
Absolutely. Just want to wish you a very happy new year for when it comes. Go ahead and take advantage of 30% off all product and programs. Coupon code is DESTINY. Go and check out the website. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure to be here to bring you the predictions for 2022. And like I say, hopefully empower you to take your power back, stand in your own power, and actually really navigate and prepare for 2024, which is when the rebirth or the new birth is.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Architects of Destiny podcast. Be sure to subscribe, and we will see you on the next episode.